This week we have a very interesting show. Last week we was dealing with so many different things, but we're going to be focused today. The first thing I want to talk about is the mayor's budget because it's passed. And I thought, with my little limited knowledge, very limited political experience, that the people who are African American in the mayor's pocket would have certainly reconsidered their ways. I guess it doesn't matter.
No, so, just to be clear, last Thursday, the City Council approved and passed a 6% increase to property tax, the first one in 5 years, and also passed a 5% increase to the sewer and water rates going into the 2023 fiscal year budget. So the mayor had originally proposed 7.5% for the property tax, but still with what they introduced and passed as a council, sending it back to the mayor. It's going to be a $4.1 million increase over the operating budget and a $2.1 million over their water and storage budget from the previous year.
But didn't you say something, and I know you're going to jump in, but didn't you say something to make sure I'm clear last week about you were trying to get on the Zoom for the financing, and they said they was rescheduling it?
Yes.
Well, how did they? Well, talk to me.
They sent out the wrong Zoom link for the public to get on and give public comment. Then they announced that they were having a special meeting the day of the city council meeting, which very little people knew about, at 5 to pass those resolutions out of the committee and then go ahead with the budget. Not many people were able to get on because people did not get the notice that they needed to know that there was a meeting going on. If they knew they were going to schedule a special meeting that Thursday, then they should have said something on. The original meeting took place Monday. They have Tuesday and Wednesday to say something, and they didn't.
Wow, this is crazy.
The fact of the matter is, you did that, number one, I'm sure that the administration was probably singing victory is mine, because they got 10 votes.
Really?
Only 3 people voted against it.
Really?
President Congo, Councilwoman Shanae Darby, and Spadola.
Whoa.
So, know, it was, but when you look at 2 things, number one, a supposedly compromise when the tax increase went from $7 million, from 7% to 6%. Well, what kind of compromise is that? That's number one. And number two, you did a tax increase knowing full well you got a $9 million surplus in the budget. Separate and apart from that, and I voted against it, you got $6 million coming from the county now because the county negotiated with the city over the amount of sewer rate and how much we had to pay the city for our input, the county's input into the water sewer treatment plant. So now that's $15 million, a $15 million surplus that I know about. So why'd you increase taxes?
Because I can.
And what are you gonna do with all that money? So now you got a $9 million surplus plus $8 million to stop the violence that you haven't identified what you're going to spend it on. If anybody thinks there's nothing nefarious in that budget, I think they're naive at best.
Well, you had all of the blacks. They voted for it. Besides,
he got 10. It wasn't 7-6. He got 10.
He got 2 extras, huh? So do me a favor. Could you please say for the audience who voted for their taxes to be increased, the water and the sewer in the city of Wilmington with a surplus that Shreet is talking about of almost $9 million? Who were the 10 persons so that we can have it on the screen so people can see who they are?
So first, it was Councilwoman Maria Cabrera, at large. Councilwoman Loretta Walsh, at large. Councilman Al Mills, at large. First District Councilwoman Linda Gray. 3rd District Councilwoman Xanthia Oliver. 4th District Councilwoman Michelle Harley. 5th District Councilwoman Brigida Fields, 6th District Councilwoman Yolanda McCoy, 7th District Councilman Chris Johnson, and 8th District Councilman Nathan Fields.
Wow. You're right. He was singing. He was singing "Victory is mine." In other words,
I'm sure.
In other words,
victory is mine.
Okay, I'm glad you can sing a little bit. But in other words, to make sure that all the viewers see this, in other words, the 6% is a new increase they're going to do, right? Instead of
a 6% tax increase. And so if you're paying a mortgage or if you're paying rent, it's guaranteed that's going to go up 6%.
All right.
And how much was the percent increase? 5% on the water, Kobe?
Yeah, 5%.
All right. So now we have it, and it's very clear. We're not going to play any games with it. But what I do believe was said is that you guys on this talk show don't know what y'all talking about. Those council persons know that increase was needed. The tax being raised was needed. The increase in water sewer was needed. If you knew so much, you would be on the city council.
Well, the fact of the matter is, we're still in the middle of a pandemic as numbers are rising, and gas is $4.50, unprecedented high.
Depends on what kind of car you drive.
I think because
mine was $5.09.
Yeah, well, it's over $5
Okay.
for diesel fuel.
But I don't use diesel.
The fact of the matter, well, you use high tech.
There you go.
And diesel fuel is $5.50.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, I just think it's outrageous that while we're still in the pandemic, while you've got this level of inflation, and starting with gas, but inflation across the board, that you impose an undue tax burden on the citizens, especially when you have more money in the city coffers than you've ever had in the history of the city.
I can hear them saying, well, that's your opinion, and you can keep your opinion. Your opinion doesn't matter when it comes down to the intelligence of the city council, who will inflict this burden on its residents in the midst of a pandemic.
But in my opinion, what's naive is separation of powers set forth in the United States Constitution and work across all levels of government for good cause.
Yeah.
And to just give any executive, be it this mayor, be it a county executive, be it a governor, nobody gets carte blanche like that, especially when you talk about increasing and raising taxes. And if you look at even the General Assembly and the governor realize that we're in difficult times. They're sending everybody $300 as opposed to raising taxes. They're giving all state employees a raise and a one-time bonus like they did last year. What is the city doing other than imposing this fiscal will upon residents who can withstand it the least?
Well, I gotta agree with you. I'm not gonna agree with you, but I'm gonna go off of your own words. You cannot be double-tongued on this show. You said the mayor is a smart guy. He's really know what he's doing, and obviously you were right. You were right. He's smart. He understands what he's doing,
Well,
and all you can talk about all your powers you want.
Any mayor, any executive, worth his or her salt, is going to do everything he or she can to have control of his or her, be it a council or be it a governor wants control of the General Assembly.
Yeah.
And it's crystal clear that he has it with no formidable opposition. And in my opinion, when it comes to some issues, that's sad at best.
Well, so what I'll just simply say is, congratulations, Mr. Mayor, job well done. You have been able to raise our taxes, you were able to raise our water and sewer, and you got overwhelming support, especially from the black council members. What a great job. I want to turn our attention, unless you have something else you want to say.
No, that's...
Oh, good, because I don't want to go any further. I just want Street to understand when he's talking to me about issues, I'm paying attention. And the mayor is one of the smartest guys I know based on his definition. Displacement of the folks on Adams Avenue. It's been 2 weeks now, and are there any updates? Let me just do it that way without going into any facetiousness.
Well, the update I have is that you've got residents who have been temporarily placed, but I haven't heard anything about permanent placements, and it appears on the surface that the city administration is scared to death to do what they would normally do when properties are condemned, and that's board them up, because apparently they're scared of litigation from the landlord, who's now being investigated by the state attorney general.
Well, it's not just that. Yeah, they're not in permanent housing, but also the city did a resource fair. And the resource fair was for those who were in the North Adams Street apartments who were displaced. And there was people who was getting, their houses were being shut down by LNI that same day, who came over to try to get help, and the city turned them away. This isn't just one incident, right? This is happening all across the city of Wilmington right now. Well, not all across, only in the poor communities, right? That they're targeted. And this is what happens when you pass a blight bill and have no true plan about the back end of things. Look, am I saying we need to keep these blighted properties open? Absolutely not. But if you're gonna be displacing people, you have to have somewhere for them to go. You can't just say, oh, well, we have to fix up the properties, so we're gonna kick everyone out on the street. And that's exactly what they're doing to people right now. This is all coming from a blight bill that people fought against last session, but Maria Cabrera was proud to come in and pass it this session because the mayor had his 7. This is on all of the 7 who voted for this. Xanthia Oliver, Linda Gray, Brigida Fields, Chris Johnson, Nathan Fields, James Spadola, Loretta Walsh, all of them who voted for this, this is on them.
So that bill
Okay,
was.
but let me be crystal clear if I can. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Make sure you put those up on the street.
But isn't it the fact that what you're saying is the properties, all of the apartment complexes on Adams Street that were condemned, they're not the only properties in the city that have been condemned.
Correct.
There were condemnations of other properties.
It was just, it got news attention.
But they're the only ones that are getting news. Now, if you look at patterns across the city, okay, I've talked about the number of square blocks of public housing been torn down, but go up 2nd Street, look at the 1200 block, okay? They have taken down all the houses from the corner store all the way down to the corner. All that city property, what are they going to do with it? And they came running.
Give it to developers,
They
and
came
then
running
also
to the
give them
county
some of our taxpayer dollars.
And wanted $1 million to pay for supposedly affordable housing in that area. Penrose raised sand. I supported him raising sand. And now the proposal is for $500,000. And Councilman Hollins and I are going to do everything we can to vote that down because, in my opinion, and I said this publicly at the Community Services Committee meeting on Tuesday, at this point, the city of Wilmington is unworthy of trust as it relates to affordable housing in compliance with HUD regulations and procedures. And I'm not going to support that, and I'm going to encourage my colleagues on council not to support that, and ultimately I hope that the county executive changes his mind.
Now, it becomes a political fire. As I'm listening to this, no, the city of Wilmington is not friendly to public housing. I mean, it is very clear.
Affordable housing, public housing, any way it's done.
Right, and I like the word affordable, but public housing is even better because that's when you're dealing with the federal, dollars that came in and they're under investigation with that. But I just feel really bad that we're dealing with more than Adams Avenue. We're dealing with a blight bill, as you have indicated, that was put out there with no plan. Now,
the plan was to grab as much property as you can and let the developers have it, give it away through the land bank, displace all the residents, and it's continuation of the plan set forth in the Baker administration to purposely and intentionally move low-income people out of the city.
Right, but
it's not done. It's not going to be done there, right? The mayor has one of his best allies down in Dover now with Bud Friel, and you bet Bud-Field is going to be putting up legislation, I guarantee you, before the end of June to try to get things passed, to be able to take people's houses, to be able to bundle houses, to be able to continue to push this agenda of pushing out and gentrifying the city of Wilmington.
But let's go one step further. Look at what's been in the public press in the last week as relates to the residents that live around St. Francis Hospital and what's to be done or not be done with the reservoir. And the city's intention is to build 74 houses over there. Not affordable housing, but to have a developer come in and build the houses that are going to be have nothing to do with affordable housing and public housing. And you've got residents up there who are opposing it, and you have a person on the mayor's staff go in, disrupt the public
Yeah, I heard
gathering,
about that.
call that man a liar in public and take over his meeting. And that's
This is
not
the
the
same
first,
man.
that's not the first time that he has acted like that. And you
He's
know,
got in the face of a Councilman Hollins.
correct.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait,
It was
I'd like to
actually
Over
2019.
over Councilman Hollins' objection to them giving land, parkland, to the Votech School District. And the same person ran out of council chambers as Councilman Hollins left and got in his face yelling and
Well, who are we
screaming.
talking about? We scared. Who is this person?
Tom Ogden.
Tom who?
Tom Ogden.
Now, who is he?
He is the former deputy chief of staff. I think he's just policy now for the mayor.
Wait a minute. And this.
But the fact of the matter is he's running around intimidating people.
Yeah,
But
and he
physically-
even said he's
physically,
speaking on behalf of the mayor.
I mean, verbally and invading space,
and this is a black guy.
no.
And he jumped in the black guy's. See, I'm different. I'm different.
Well,
And you said Hollins, who I respect highly. I want him to come. I wish he would jump in my face.
Pastor.
Oh, I'm
you gotta
sorry.
act
I
like a
forgot.
pastor
Oh,
all
I'm
the
sorry.
time.
I know, but the Bible speaks of laying on of hands, and I'm a firm believer in that. You lay hands. Some things come through fasting and praying. Other things come through by the laying on of hands, and I stand firm on that. Now let's go back to this argument. You mean this joker is this person is running around intimidating people?
It appeared to me from what was in the public press that when you jump out and you yell and you call somebody a liar who's making a presentation at a public meeting, and then basically you take over that meeting, what else is that?
Unacceptable.
And you know, people in the public have a right to their opinion, whether you agree or not.
Yeah.
But you know, if somebody comes to county council meeting and wants to, and matter of fact, somebody's been doing that, and saying what they want to say, and the majority, if not all, council members don't agree with it, we still allow that person to talk and say what he's got to say, because all the citizens have a right to say what they want to say.
Right, absolutely. But going back to something, I got to move my spirit past this person who jumping in people's faces, who are getting disrespectful, and especially in the face of Hollins, because I really respect him, and I wish I would have known that back then, because we would have handled that then. But I want to go back to something you said. They passed this blight bill to be able to do what they're doing now, shut down these houses, do several things without a plan. Now, I know Street said there was a plan, but the plan that you're talking about, how do you deal with the displaced residents? Some people, if my house have an issue, I can use my American Express card and go to a hotel, okay? I have family and people and resources to be able to handle my emergencies. The people who are being displaced do not have that reserve funding.
That's my whole point.
But that was his point, that we almost got lost.
Those who fail to plan to fail, and you know full well that the people who are in those properties, when you condemn them, have to go somewhere. So where's the assistance? Okay, what does your constituent services division do? Because L&I is going, I assume, let the administration know what they're doing. So you've got a whole department of constituent services, some of which you just eliminated position from. But what is the services that you provide while you're purporting to protect the people who live there?
That's what we're dealing with. policy that is being presented without a plan.
But let me go one step further. All these things being with the properties going to the so-called land bank, and you've got the former executive director of the land bank who was just sentenced, given probation for stealing $28,000. So you've got nefarious activities, as far as I'm concerned, in all divisions of housing within the city, because when you take the non-compliance with HUD over to $446,000, when you take the Wilmington Housing Partnership and the $500,000 that was not paid back, that the mayor sued the former city treasurer over, and that litigation never came to fruition because what they did was they waited, delayed, and waited until she was no longer the treasurer, so the lawsuit went away. But that's approximately, it's $946,000 worth of revenue within housing for the city that is questionable in terms of what was done with the money and whether or not it's in compliance with regulations and procedures.
Well, all I can say, Street, is this: we're not going to let that issue get swept under the table. While we cover several things every week, some things we keep coming back to on purpose.
But this is in the thick of the situation where it's reported in the public press that homelessness in the state of Delaware has doubled in the last year. And if anybody thinks that the city of Wilmington is not a part of that, then they're not, again, naive at best, because we've got the largest population. We're still the largest city.
Well, absolutely. And then you look at Adams Avenue by itself, all those people who were displaced, that added to that list, but there's even beyond that. But what I want to make sure we do is continue to follow up and follow through and keep sharing with the public who watch our show, whether they're watching it on 28 or on our YouTube or wherever channels that we have different broadcasting this, that I want to make sure they understand that we're going to keep bringing the information to them, and we're going to allow them to make sound decisions. Because when election time comes, I'm going to make sure I remind, because my favorite line is, we will remember in November. That's going to happen. Let's move it a little bit further. Something interesting happened. You wanted, you didn't, I don't know what was going on, but this whole marijuana bill, the governor, he vetoed it. I mean, you Democrats, y'all passed it.
And I publicly thanked him for vetoing it in the first committee meeting the county council had on Tuesday, because I think he did the right thing. In my opinion, it's bad legislation, a bad idea. And what I said during my tenure as executive director to the children at Hilltop Lutheran Neighborhood Center, for 30 years I said it. Everybody that I know that started getting high with regularity in junior high and high school, they're either dead, in jail, still high, or actively participating in a substance abuse prevention program. And the data is crystal clear. 90% of the addicts that we have, be it on heroin, crack cocaine, those who are addicted, the initial drug of choice was marijuana. It's a gateway drug. It's proven to be that. And why the government now wants to get in and become drug dealers is just inappropriate as far as I'm concerned.
We're hearing that from the baby boomer side of the house. Let's look to the
the
other side of the house. Which,
right. So one, I'm extremely disappointed in the governor for vetoing this bill. And this wasn't either, I know you keep saying the government is drug dealers. This wasn't either that. This was just saying it is legal to smoke weed here. We're not going to arrest anyone over 21 for smoking weed in Delaware, right? The same laws that they have used disproportionately to put black and brown people in jail right? While our white counterparts who smoke at the same rate as us, I don't smoke, just to let everyone
He
know,
does.
but at the same rate as black and brown people, right? We are making up the majority of the jail population for those same charges. So yeah, I think it's time for them to legalize it, since they're not going to effectively apply the law across the board. But also, you look at the components of it, right? This war on drugs has taken a huge impact on minority communities, right? And legalizing weed, you know, people have been smoking weed for years, decades, centuries, right? In our community, it is something that's done pretty regularly. But yet again, the governor raised a concern about law enforcement. But it's funny that he has concerns about law enforcement when it comes to enforcing the law for this, but yet they can't even enforce the law when it comes to holding themselves accountable. They can't even do the right job when it comes to finding out what's going on in their own department. But he wants to make sure they're still able to arrest black people here in the city of Wilmington, in Dover, in Georgetown, in Newark, because that's who is targeted by these laws.
Well, could
But
we
you make a meritorious argument, but the fact of the matter is it's already legal. Okay, my last few years at Hilltop, you know, having to argue with high school students who think it's just fine to stand outside a daycare center at 6:30 in the morning waiting for the school bus and get high. Never mind the fact that you're going to school getting high. As we speak, I'm still continuing to receive complaints from seniors who don't smoke medical marijuana, who complain about the smell of marijuana and on vehicles that they had to take to and forth dialysis and other places because of the people who are using medical marijuana. We got all these issues going on, and there's no enforcement. But you're correct. We lock our children up for doing this, but we want to turn around as the government. As the government now, you spent, like you said.
No, that's two different bills. Two different bills. They broke them up.
It doesn't matter. It's all part and parcel of each other, and you know that. You make a meritorious argument, but you can't negate the fact that that they want to be drug dealers.
But they couldn't.
It's all about money.
Yeah, they couldn't get that portion passed. But the legalizing weed could have been done.
As soon as you got it legalized, they was bringing it right back. And if he hadn't vetoed this and it went forward, they'd have brought it right back, and you know that.
No, because they can't get the votes to actually do the other side of the taxation.
Who's going to benefit the most from being a drug dealer?
But hold on, here's my thing, right? Statistics in the states that have legalized it and have had it for a while, you've seen a decrease in usage among minors of marijuana. You've also seen a decrease in DUIs and traffic deaths as well too, involving marijuana in states that have legalized versus states that have not. But also, I just want to point out this one last thing. We are on the heels. And you said it's legalized. The only thing it has legalized is the fact that the cops can still harass black people. That's the only thing that has been legalized by this. And the perfect example.
But
hold on, I'm not done yet.
Go down to 8th and Monroe with them out there dealing, and nobody's stopping them, dealing on one side of 8th Street, dealing on another side of Monroe
Tell
Street.
that to the family of Lamont
doing just
Moses.
what the hell they want to do.
You have to tell that to the family of Lamont
Moses. And nobody's going to do anything about it because they're not.
What we sat in that meeting with the AG, and they said that the police was justified in approaching Lamont Moses because they smelt weed and they thought weed was in the car. Even though it was under the decriminalized amount, they still approached him and ended up executing him. This is also coming off the heels of what happened what happened to the Dell State lacrosse team, right? This is why this is so important right now, because it does not matter. It does not matter. It does not matter. All cops see is our skin color, and they automatically look to charge us with something. And if we talk back to them, that's another charge. If we stand up and say, you're violating my rights, that's another charge. And that's going to keep happening. Those girls on that bus didn't have an ounce of weed on them, an ounce of drugs, other than their prescribed medications that they need and athletes take all the time. But yet those cops still use the fact that marijuana was illegal in that state to go after those young ladies. And that's what's going to keep happening here. That's what the county cops are going to keep doing. They're going to kill someone else probably. That's what the city cops are going to do it because that's all they good at. And then that's what the state police are going to do at.
And the fact that it's a gateway drug, and we've got just as many, I mean, per capita, per person, who are addicted and in programs and who are dying because of opioids.
So
that is of no moment. You purposely and intentionally put it on the street. You're poisoning your own people.
All right, let me just say this, because I see the millennial side of it. I don't know what generation you are, baby boomer,
Generation.
the street generation of, and I see your argument. You are more or less towards that criminal justice piece that they're using it to criminalize, black and brown people. You're seeing it as that if they was to pass it, it will harm.
But
it would do.
Y'all know people who started getting high with regularity in junior high school,
Bill
high
Clinton
school,
didn't-
and college.
he didn't-
and the
he
four
didn't help.
categories that I put them in. Do you know anybody that's not in those four? Either
agreeing
dead,
with
in
you.
jail, still high, or actively
But you don't change
participating
the
in a
concept.
rehab program.
I do. I went to school with them. I went to Salesiana with them. They smoked all the time. They're now business owners. They work in the finance industry. They work for construction. They run their own
the valedictorian of my senior class
They've been stopped
was a
by the
weed
cops.
head. I gotta be honest with you.
They've been stopped by the cops and let go. I literally have seen them brag about it on social media about the cops stopping them. They taking pictures with the blunt right in their ears
I'm not
with
for-
the cop at the window
Which
and
means
get
they're still
off.
high.
That's because these city,
Category
state,
3,
and county
they're
cops
still
are
high.
racist.
They're still high.
They're racist.
Hey, this is what happens when there's a disagreement in generations. But I think they're saying the exact same thing. The street does not want to see our young people living on drugs, and brother Kobe does not want to see our young people constantly harassed by cops. So that's all the argument is about. But this was a great
No, but
discussion.
his argument is meritorious. It's meritorious. I give you this. Right is right and wrong is wrong. It's meritorious as relates to your takeaway a major piece of the police operations probable cause for searches.
Right.
That's a meritorious argument.
Okay.
But I don't think it surpasses mine.
And we'll be right back. And we're back. After that interesting exchange, now we will move to our most favorite part. We add another part to the show, I'll tell you in a minute. But for right now, it's the Kobe Corner. Kobe, what's going on?
Yeah, so, not too long ago, we all watched, and I got very emotional on the last show.
Yeah.
As 10 people, 13 total involved, but 10 people murdered in a grocery store up in Buffalo, New York. Since then, there's been a lot of moving pieces. People are starting to retain counsel to sue. The shooter, his attorneys are seeking a gag order on the DA. What is happening right now in Buffalo and across this country is white supremacy is growing back to the point of the 60s, right? And it's always important to know your history, right? Learn from your history, but we can't just keep going on the normal way. Whether it's South Carolina or Buffalo, the attacks on the black community continue to happen. And it seems as though everyone gets the help they need except for the black community.
Absolutely.
And I'm in support of what happened after when Congress took steps to pass the Stop Asian Hate. That was great. When Congress took steps to send millions and billions of dollars to Ukraine, I'm in support of that. But when it comes to addressing the issues that keeps happening in the black community, that's when the discussion comes, oh, we have no more resources for you. Oh, we can't do anything else. Oh, well, what was their criminal background? Was it gang related? It is a sad fact that this keeps happening over and over and over again. And I talked about how even the media describes this young man as a teenager. they talk to his parents. How do you feel your son committed these crimes? Excuse me? First off, you raised your son to be a monster. You gave your son a gun and he used it to go kill people. I don't give two craps what they feel about their son.
He's getting close to your area.
So we need to start coming together as a community. And that means having politicians that aren't scared to stand up for what's right. That means by having community leaders that are willing to buck the system. And that means us just coming together as neighbors again and standing united as a people. And we're very fractured. And it's incidents like this that should bring us together, but there's still people on two different sides of the debate. But, you know, it's sad. It's sad. And, you know, as we follow this case, hopefully, you know, this man gets the max sentence he can. Again, I'm not in favor of the death penalty. I want him to have to wake up every single day for the rest of his life and think about those 10 lives he took and those 3 lives he's forever impacted.
What is that policy? I don't know the policy of waterboarding. What happens in waterboarding?
So waterboarding is not allowed in America.
I'm asking a question. I didn't say whether I agree. Just tell me what does it do?
It's
cruel and unusual.
Yeah, cruel and unusual torture.
All right, I am not for the death penalty, but I am for waterboarding. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Because the problem is,
You're out of your lane.
I know I'm totally out of my lane, but you know what really bothers me, and I know we got to move on to the next item that you have, is that these 10 people were doing nothing but minding their business and being black, shopping, doing the right thing. This monster decided, and how he was even treated by the police was just unacceptable, and it's kind of like washing it away. But I don't believe that he should be killed neither, but he should be tortured.
Well, the question I have is, how did he get to walk away and be apprehended when you look at the number of situations where we've got young people without a gun being shot in the back, being shot for running. And that comparison is just inappropriate. And Kobe, you said it's like we're going back to the 60s. It's worse than that, 'cause we didn't play that in the 60s, okay? If you look at what transpired in this country and how we as a people responded after the assassination of Dr. King, now the 60s isn't the time. This goes back to Reconstruction and the KKK past the Civil War, because only difference is they don't have to wear sheets no more, and the sheets that they wear now, they button down in suits, and they're not afraid to say how they feel, the way they feel, and they found more courage in the last 5-6 years than they've had since Reconstruction.
Yeah, and they found him street, and with the politicians who have really begun to speak out, and then even our black politicians who are deciding to take way back. That's why I said either you're anti-racist or you are racist. That's my philosophy, and that's what I stand on. Go ahead, my brother. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Another difficult. Are y'all done with that?
Yeah.
One? Another difficult topic to speak on. Is this ongoing mass shootings that are happening in our schools.
Yeah.
And earlier this week, we all saw the news, 19 students, 2 teachers killed by an 18-year-old who crashed his car into a school building, ran into a classroom and started killing, right? And when news of this broke, you had parents in fear rush to the school. And when they got there, they saw a bunch of cops just standing around, not moving, talking, no urgency whatsoever. A gunman with an AR-15 was inside the school literally killing young children, and these officers were just walking around. One parent, whose daughter ended up getting killed, said, screw this. talked to a bunch of other parents there, and they tried to go in the building to stop the gunman since the cops went in. And the cops stopped them.
And you put that beside the fact that this 18-year-old brought the 2 guns on his birthday. And according to what's in newsfeed, his high school students are saying, we thought something was wrong because when he didn't come to school, when he did come, he was always fighting. And then he had apparently cut scars into his face. Who does that? And had posted online things about being happy about his cruelty to animals. Nobody saw this coming? How do you not see those kind of qualities and attributes in an 18-year-old? How does an 18-year-old on his birthday go in and buy 2?
Because it's legal. Because
It's legal.
Because
but
it's
also,
legal.
you know what else empowered this? The fact that down in Texas, they're rather arm teachers and make them
Did
do
you hear
all
them
this
say
other
that?
stuff.
Well,
Yes.
And what they're getting ready to do is make it so nobody wants to be a teacher.
Right.
Because
it gets worse than that.
School? Do you want to teach children, or you want to be the popo?
So one of the parents even said that the reason, so the regular cops couldn't get in and Border Patrol had to come. And Border Patrol couldn't get into the room because of the safety locks they had in case of a mass shooting. So the gunman was locked in the room, killing children and teachers, and he was able to continue to do that because of the mechanisms. Instead of actually addressing the issue, they locked these kids in there with them. And that's a true issue. And then yet, you have the governor of Texas, not even 3 hours after what happened, he still went to a fundraiser for his campaign, 300 miles away from the school.
Those lives did not matter.
And
to the
on
level.
top of that, the NRA is scheduled to
Today,
have.
He is
on
headlining.
No,
Him,
Trump.
President Trump,
yeah.
and Ted Cruz,
Yeah.
the 3 highest people, well, 2 of the highest people in the
having
state.
their convention in the state of Texas, and none
About
of them
100
have
miles away.
None of them have the decency, or the courage to cut
And you know
that
what?
off. And we're as a nation, the NRA has brought at least 50 senators. They brought and paid for, and all of us, black, white, brown, are paying the price for it because we're at a point in this nation where we got more guns than people, and basically murderers and all these shootings. It doesn't matter. But to the point where let's go all the way back to 1992 when assault weapons were banned, and then now come the Bush, and the Bush administration
But see,
open that door
right?
back up.
The cops just sitting out there doing nothing as a gunman was in there killing children. This comes almost 2 years to the day that we witnessed George Floyd be executed by police. 2 years of asking for reform. But what did the cops get? They got more money. They got militarized equipment, big tanks, assault rifles.
It's a group of you. You're militarized. You got all this militarized
And
stuff.
can't do nothing.
And you're scared to go in the building.
Exactly.
And that's why I want to say that
You're scared to go in the
honestly,
building after one person. After you got police officers who already had a gunfight with him.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. For those of you who are watching, you know, I being a member of, I withdrew my membership out of the NRA, but in order to be certified in the state of Delaware to carry a concealed weapon, you have to join the NRA. I didn't know that in the front end because you got to take the class, and the class is being only given by NRA people that I am aware of. But regardless of all of that, the purpose for why I even wanted to carry was because I felt unsafe in my family with you know, my notoriety and things of that nature. But if they said tomorrow that for the sake of this country, let's just let those who are the authority carry guns and everybody else should give up their weapons, I would do it tomorrow. Because the reason why is because what's happening now is that it's not even about shooting deer. It's about killing people. What do you need? The kind of rifle that he bought. Where do you hunt at with that? So, but
Grocery
he did
stores and schools.
But he did
Grocery stores and
In
schools.
churches.
Absolutely, and churches. That's right. But he did it legally, and they're not going to change it. We're going to have prayers and thoughts and considerations that's going to go on, and it hurts. I had to go home and hug my. I'm getting emotional now because I can't even imagine something happening. Yesterday, my daughter was in her play, and I'm sitting there the whole time looking around like, is she safe? It can happen in any community, and as the human side of me,
wake up and understand.
the
This could
human
happen
side of me,
anywhere.
yes,
First off,
yeah,
I know we in a church, but thoughts and prayers,
yeah.
that whole statement is a joke to me.
It is.
Because these same politicians who say, oh, our thoughts and prayers are with the family, are the same politicians who run on Christian values who say, oh, God told me to run for office. Well, if God was bold enough to tell you to run for office, I'm pretty sure God would tell you to be a man of action, be a woman of action.
Faith without works is dead.
But exactly. So it's crazy how people take the word of God and use it to their own advantage. It gets on my nerves when they say that
Absolutely.
and then not do anything, accept more money for the NRA, and then make it easier for people to get guns.
But
Yeah.
I thought the Charles president,
Who, Barack Obama?
y'all's president, Joe Biden,
Oh,
I thought he was correct when he said when he was flying back from Japan and contemplating what he was going to say, that these kind of mass shootings don't happen anywhere else in the world.
right. That's why I said I would
But
be willing to
America.
give up. And I know the racism side of it. Like there's police still going to be there may be police brutality and things of that nature, but nowhere else in the world. I was doing a tour after we were going on a cruise, and we were doing a tour, and we asked the question to our tourists. How many murders do y'all have on this island? He said none, because none of us, we don't carry guns. We just have the authority. What happens a lot of times is that everybody got access to a gun and they just do what they want to do. We'll be right back. And we're back. Well, we have another section of this program that we're going to add. We have the Kobe Corner. We did some things with the Silent Storm. But right now, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to go with Street Heat. Whatever's on his mind, we want to hear from him, too, because he does bring a strong value to our show. So what's going on with the Street Heat section of the world?
Well, I don't want to bring any heat this week. I'll
Okay.
bring some next week.
Okay.
I want to express my gratitude and appreciation to Red Clay School District, Superintendent Darrell Green, especially Dr. Adriana Baum, as a member of Red Clay Board, because I was happy to attend the renaming of a school the other day on Monday to Joseph E. Johnson School. And I just wanted to take a few minutes, one, to say thank you, number two, to reflect on the contributions of Joe Johnson to the children, the parents, and the staff of the Wilmington School District for many, many years. And people need to understand and know what Joe went through. He was indeed the first African-American principal assigned to a school in the former Wilmington School District. Went on to become the second African-American superintendent. And prior to the school desegregation order that started in 1978, it had to do all the things to prepare for school desegregation. 1977, the Wilmington teachers went on strike. And before we could get schools open, that strike had to be resolved. And we, members of the community, including Hicks Anderson, myself, we took over the school board building. And Joe Johnson, as superintendent, said, no, you're not going to arrest them, okay? Going to let them stay there because they're not going to do anything to the building while we negotiate. No other superintendent would have done that. Second, we're getting ready to go into DSEG, and you, the Wilmington school teachers, are on strike. As we go into DSEG, Wendell Howe had gone across the country and studied what worked and what didn't work in the school desegregation process and said, these are the things that should be done. Number one, all administrators should be hired in black and white teams. Number two, in order to have a peaceful transition, you need to have human relations specialists in at least all the secondary schools hired in black and white teams. What Joe was able to do by himself, because Wendell got into trouble, and that's a whole nother story that I'll come back to one day. But when we made that transition, Joe was able to work to transit all the administrators. They were hired in black and white teams. Second, no Wilmington school teacher was fired. All the paraprofessionals were hired. Everybody kept their job. Now, Joe's looking out for these teachers. After you started the school year and went on strike on me, very few superintendents would have cooperated and tried to look out for them. Now the question is, at the time, teachers in the Wilmington School District were making approximately $13,000 a year. Teachers in the suburban school districts are making approximately $5,000 a year. So now we go into the discrepancy of whether or not we're going to level up or you're going to level the Wilmington teachers down. Joe saw to it that they leveled up. And even the raise that he had to give the Wilmington school teachers via the new contract, they were able to keep that. No other superintendent would have been able to accomplish that.
And before you went any further, I think you did it backwards. So you said the Wilmington school teachers were making $13,000 or $5,000?
$13,000. Wilmington teachers were the highest paid teachers
okay.
because at the time the city of Wilmington had a lock on entitlement money.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So entitlement money was available to pay the Wilmington teachers.
Okay.
None of the other districts were eligible for entitlement money, so Wilmington teachers made the most money.
And he was with Red School?
No, he was with Wilmington School District at the time.
I was trying
now
to make
he became the area superintendent, and when we went from the super district to 4 districts, and they named one of them Red Clay. Even though it was a 4-3 vote, we managed to get the 4th vote to see to it that Joe was superintendent. And historically and traditionally, black superintendents are held to a higher and different standard, and Joe was no different. As chairman of the Coalition Save Our Children, I sued Joe not once, but twice. And Joe accepted the fact that it was a legitimate concern on our part that you got a so-called school desegregation order, but you kept AI High School at the time lily white, and you had Wilmington High School all black. I said, everybody else had to desegregate, why is this exempt? And, you know, Joe and Judge Williams were best friends, and we explained to Joe why we were doing it. Joe didn't like it, but he accepted it, and when he testified, he told the truth. And we weren't able to get everything we wanted, but we prevailed, and to the point where at least the court at the time found the Red Clay School Board basically guilty of delay, obfuscation, and recalcitrance as related to desegregating the schools. And to me, the only reason I didn't stand there in the street in front of the house the other day and cry, because I don't want nobody to see me crying in public, but it was important to me because it completed a circle of our male leaders who brought us in and out of the school desegregation process. And I want to make it crystal clear again. The Redden building named after Mr. Redden, who was the litigator.
Absolutely.
Judge Williams, who worked under Mr. Redden and took over part of the litigation when Mr. Redden was no longer practicing. But the courthouse named after him was critical. The fact that William Hicks Anderson, as a student advocate and the person I worked very closely with to see to it that we didn't like the court order, we didn't agree with it, but that we had a peaceful transition. And when our children were subjected to disparate discipline, Hicks was right there. And what we did see to it was every time there was so much as a skirmish in the schools with black and white kids, we went in there and broke it up. And one of us had to work with the black kids, one of us had to work with the white kids, because we were the only advocates, but we broke that mess up. So the Hicks Anderson Center named after him. Mayor Sills, who was a vital part of it because he was at the university, provided program support. Matter of fact, that's where I ended up with my first job as a result of the work that he did with the former Wilmington Homeschool Community Council, and that bridge and that statue. And to me, with Joe Johnson, that school being named after him, that completed the circle of people who were had major influence and did outstanding work as relates to carrying us in and out of the school desegregation process. And the only thing is, unfortunately, Wendell Howe, who was probably the most well-versed, knowledgeable person in the country about school desegregation, what worked and didn't work, he'll not get his accolades because of the way they went after him and targeted him and saw to it that charges were brought, and they ended up having him arrested, convicted, on the front page of the paper, Thanksgiving Day, 1978. He only did a few days in jail, but they went on a seek and destroy mission. But Wendell, all the things that I said Joe had to complete, they were initiated by Wendell. And at some point in time, we as a community should give Wendell, regardless of his difficulties, should give him his accolades for doing what he did.
And I think what has to happen when you sat here, and I purposely sat here and listened to your historical timeline of those men who were not afraid of the struggle, who endured the struggle and came out successful from the struggle and doing the things they needed to do. All of them have been awarded. You said there's one still out there that needs to be rewarded for what he has done. And I think that's why those of us who are students, we need to hear these lessons. And then as we hear these lessons, we're going to have to now carry the mantle and see how we can make that happen. So we're going to make sure we make that happen. We'll be right back. And we're back. Good show today. So much was going on, so we kind of ran out of time. But I want to thank you, brothers, for another great week. A lot of information that was given out. We're going to make sure we follow up. But I hope you got a chance to see those city council persons who voted to raise their taxes as well as their water. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Street Heat.
Yeah. Until next week.
Take care, y'all.